Anyway, so yeah, this looks like a scramble. Thank you. And Dr. Becker, who would start? All right.
Hi everyone, I'm Robert Dodig. I am good. We have Heather Leonard missing. Time constraint is 7 p.m. for me. What's next? Elephants? No elephants. Expectation, make progress. Just want to take liberty for a moment and congratulate Shanna for getting her doctorate. So, congratulations, Shanna.
Hi, I'm Will Rothenberg. I'm doing well. I think we're missing Mario, and I can't read that far, but one other person, I think maybe from the TALC side as well. No time constraints, no elephants. Expectation would be to reach consensus.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Amy Desamore, and I'm fine. Missing's been noted. No time constraints, no elephants, and my expectations are that we, oh, my eyesight's getting so bad I can't even see what's up there. Can you say what those expectations are?
Progress and reach consensus.
Okay, I'd like to reach consensus. I was really struggling to see that I could. Hi, I'm Kimberly Hutchins. I'm good. Missing noted. No time constraints, no elephants, and
Make progress and
reach consensus.
I'm Carl Burnside. I'm fine. Missing's been noted. Time constraint is 7 o'clock. No elephants. Expectation. Reach consensus.
Hi, I'm Rachel Gold. I'm fine. Missing noted. Time constraints 6:59. No elephants, and make progress.
I'm Jessica Duncan. I am fine. Missing is noted. No time constraints, no elephants, and my expectations are to come to consensus.
Hello, I'm Christine Schroed. I'm doing fine. Missing have been noted. Time constraint is just 7 tonight. I don't have any elephants, and I'm going to go with Will's expectation to reach consensus.
Good afternoon, I'm Ben. I'm good. The missing's noted. Well, 7 o'clock time constraint. No elephants, and the expectation is to reach consensus.
Good afternoon, my name is Bonnie. I am doing well. Missing has been noted. 7 p.m. time constraint. No elephants, and expectation reach consensus.
I'm Shanna Fletcher. I'm doing great. No time constraints, no elephants, and reach consensus.
I'm Mike Gatewood. I'm doing great. Missing is noted. No time constraints, no elephants, expectations, reach consensus.
Hi, I'm Suzette. I'm doing well. Missing has been noted. No time constraints, no elephants, and my expectation is to reach consensus.
Who's the mic?
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Peterson. I'm one of the directors at Island Coast, and I'm working with TALC now. I am doing well. As far as our missing bargaining.
Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with the team yet. No time constraints, no elephants, and expectation is to make progress.
I'm Kurt Fazone. I'm fine. I am Director, Island Coast FEA, Chief Negotiator for the union. Missing's been noted. The only time constraint is 7 p.m. No elephants. Expectation, make progress.
My name is Kevin Dale. I am fine. I'm the president of the Teachers Association of Lee County. Missing has been noted. Time constraints, 7 o'clock. No elephants. And expectation to reach some consensus, even if it's only on the day of the week.
Hi, I'm Jill Castellano. I am the Vice President of TALC. I am a PCT at Varsity Lakes Middle. I'm doing well. Who's missing has been noted. Time constraints, 7 o'clock. No elephants, and my expectation is to make consensus.
Hi, my name is Anna Witten. I am a third grade teacher at Colonial Elementary. I am doing well. The missing is noted. Just 7 o'clock time constraint, no elephants, and let's reach consensus.
Good evening, my name is Samantha Howard. I'm a PCT at Harms Marsh Middle School. I am fine. Missing's been noted. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and I would also like to reach consensus.
Hi, my name is Shay Pearson. I am the TALC treasurer. I'm also a testing coordinator at Island Coast High School. I'm doing well. Missing has been noted. No time constraints, no elephants, and I would like to make decisions.
Hello, I'm Amy Johnson. I'm a teacher at Mariner Middle School. I am doing well. Missing has been noted. I have no time constraints or elephants, and I like the reach consensus.
Hello, my name is LaShonda Hutchins Colon. I am the math teacher at Franklin Park Elementary, also / first grade math teacher for the last 6 weeks. So that's been fun. I'm making it. No time constraints, missing is noted, no elephants, and I want to make progress.
Hi, my name is Iris Grimaldi. I'm a school social worker, and I am doing well. Missing has been noted. I have no time constraints with the exception of 7 o'clock. No elephants, and my expectation is to make progress.
Good evening, I'm Christina Starrett, and I'm doing well tonight. Missing is noted. I have a time constraint. I need to leave by 6:45, please. No elephants, and I would like to make progress.
Good evening, my name is Bob Scapitola. I teach mathematics at Three Oaks Middle School, and missing has been noted. I'm doing fine. No time constraints, no elephants. My expectations would be to reach consensus.
Hi, I'm Tara Sherman. I'm the school counselor at Raymond C. Page Elementary. I'm doing great. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and I'd also like to reach consensus.
Heather Guzman, I'm a teacher on assignment. I'm doing well today. I like the weather. It's probably good outside. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and I just want to help you all get through it today.
And good afternoon, I'm Donna, and I'm doing well. No time constraints, no elephants, and as Amanda said, my expectations to help you get through all of you get through today. So with that, let us just switch out the paper. I know that minutes were sent out today, and if we can approve them at least, that'd be great. So we can get it posted. Does anybody have any corrections or deletions? Let's start with the ones that were the first day we had. Kurt?
So I was able to make it through August 30th and September 27th. You want to start with the 30th, Donna?
Yes, please.
The only correction I saw was page 3, third bullet point from the top, well, I guess fourth from the top. There's a random F in the sentence. And then I believe we changed the times to 4 o'clock start times instead of 4:30, so we can make that change.
Okay, anything else on 8:30? Bob?
Yeah, page 10. These are just grammatical things. In the 6th bullet.
And where it says we need to make things easy for principals to follow because right now it's very complex. IT apostrophe S. That's all I have for that. You can tell I looked at it.
Okay, anything else for 8:30? All right, can we approve the, oh, yes, Amy.
All right, on page 5, under 11, where it says duration and acceptance, the second bullet. Some of these items require follow-up, discuss, and others we did not feel comfortable making decisions. I think that's supposed to be a follow-up discussion.
Okay.
And then others we did not feel comfortable making decisions on. I don't know if the wording just sounds awkward to me, and I'm not really sure what the intent was.
Would changing that to and other items, we did not feel comfortable?
Yes, I think that would be better, thank you.
Okay. Other items. Anything else? 8:30.
Hold on,
Okay.
they're long. Sorry. I knew I had another one in there. Under interest on page 10, these bargaining sessions are unlike any we have ever encountered. The had should be deleted. Do you see that well? And that's it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for 8:30 minutes?
Donna?
Will?
Kurt, what page was the random F?
The random had, that was on page 10.
I got that one.
The random app, I missed.
The random F was page 3, the third dark bullet on the top. And also, while I have the mic, the footer says August 31st, but the date says August 30th, and I think it was the 30th that we bargained, right?
There's that. Good. Anything else? For 8:30. Doing nothing else for 8:30, can we accept 8:30 with the correction? If you don't, please. All right, we're good for 8:30. Next one was 9/11? No?
9/27.
9/27. All right, anything for 9/27? Kurt?
Page 4, second bullet, from the top, second line, will be compensated instead of compensate. And on page 7, under story, there were 4, I guess, hollow bullets there. Those were, I believe those ended up being TALC options. that they're listed as story, but I believe we should list those as actual options. I mean, they're captured in your, kind of your second document, but however you wanna note that.
Okay, anything else? Bob?
Page 5, the last bullet, that says that's that. And page 6, the first bullet, where the employee and their provided.
Say that one again, Bob.
Yeah, it says their provided, should be THEY', and their provided, the opportunity to ask for support.
What is it, page 6 what?
Did you get that, Will? Page 6, first bullet.
Okay, anything else,
And
Bob?
on the same page, the fourth bullet, I think it should be, we need to differentiate, instead of we need to differentiate it. And on that same page, the sixth bullet, look, the last line about, so we can avoid hostility when it's time, should be IT''S. Page 7, the second bullet, in the third circle, where it says in the employee. And that's all I have.
Okay, anybody else? Or 927? Nope. All right, can we accept 927 minutes with the corrections that have been mentioned? Excellent. All right, the next set of minutes was, what was the date?
October 11th.
October 11th, right.
John, I don't think we're ready to approve those. We haven't had a chance to read them yet.
All right, so we have 2 sets of minutes approved. Bob?
Can I make a correction before we approve it?
Sure. Take some time next time.
While we're on the roll.
Page 6, the seventh bullet, fourth line in, says the word ask, and it has it with an E. And page 7, the second bullet, where it says classroom coverage, since that's and considered, I guess that and probably shouldn't even be there at all. Should probably say that's considered an instructional period. And on that same page, the fifth bullet down, the word minutes is spelled wrong. And that's all I have.
All right, so since we're not approving those minutes this evening for October 11th, please read whatever minutes that are left and email your corrections ahead of time before our next meeting. And that'll save us a lot of time if you can do that. And that would be appreciated. So with that, we'll get off minutes for now. And the next item on the agenda is continuation of our discussion from the last one.
Donna, can we just briefly talk about the calendar?
Sure, you want to do that first?
Yeah, it's just brief. I mean, I think we've agreed that we're not going to bargain on the 22nd, is that correct? Okay, just wanna, that's Thanksgiving week.
Can we go ahead and plan out the next few dates?
Sure.
I had, let me pull up my calendar again, make sure I have this correct. So the 22nd, so the 29th would be spout bargaining.
Correct.
So December 6th would be the next TALC date.
Okay.
And then since the 20th of December begins winter break, and the 3rd of January would just be a terrible day to come back after winter break and start, we figured it had to be the 24th of January because the 10th is a hurricane makeup day and the 17th is MLK.
So we're going from December 6th to January 24th.
That's what it appears to be.
Okay.
I mean, is there any desire to bargain on off days other than Mondays?
I mean, I guess we can entertain that discussion. It's just hard with a lot of the schedules and other after-school conflicts with a lot of members of our team.
Okay, we can have that conversation offline, I guess, then. That's fine.
Yeah, we definitely have the 29th and the 6th. So, if you can do an off day, if you can discuss with your team at some point, then we can talk about that next time.
Because the next one would then be the 7th of February if you wanted to keep going out that far, but
right,
we don't have to keep going out that far.
Okay.
Did she say January 29th?
No,
11th.
January 24th.
Okay. December 6th, January 24th.
Yeah, and like we do an off, come to consensus on an off day, but if the team can talk about that, because I know it's hard, getting those off days, everybody's so busy with everything, and then with the holidays approaching on top of that, it gets difficult. So if each team can kind of discuss on their own, and then maybe when we have that meeting on either the 29th, maybe on the 29th, we can discuss future dates out, we can do alternate days.
The 29th is spout.
I mean, yes, I'm sorry, the 6th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Will tells me they have labor management Wednesday, so we can maybe chat about that.
Yeah, that's
on
fine.
Wednesday. Thanks.
And one more thing, while we're talking about calendar, I know that the pandemic team has met and has relaxed some of the, I guess, constraints on in-person meetings. So do we want to have a conversation about reopening bargaining to the public?
We had a
After the beginning
conversation.
of the new year?
I'm sorry, Kurt.
No, that's all right. I can't see you, so it's hard.
I know. We had a conversation last week with the superintendent regarding that issue, and there were some follow-up questions we're going to try to answer. But our thinking was that it would be after the new year. Okay.
Anything else to do with scheduling?
That's with the caveat that everything stays the way it is with COVID, obviously.
Anything else? All right, I believe when you left here last time, although I wasn't present, that we had a number of options and one straw design on classroom coverage, and I did put the straw design up on the wall, and I put the interest for this topic up here, up on the front. So, where do you want to see? What direction would you like to take? The options, everybody got a copy of the options, I believe, and they're able to put them up on the screen if you can see them up there as well. Kevin?
So I think kind of the best thing to do is maybe to do this piecemeal. So I know last time we kind of broke off and I want to say almost got elementary solved. So I think maybe the first step is to maybe revisit just that elementary piece and get consensus on the elementary piece. And then I think we're like 3 inches away from getting secondary fixed. And then maybe do that and then agree on consensus there. You know what I mean? Kind of bifurcate the work into elementary, secondary, and then, you know, non-instructional classroom and special instructional. But in the end, have a whole agreement, but making it of its pieces parts, as opposed to going on to the next section, which may then influence something previously and throw us further behind.
All right, is everybody okay with that, doing like elementary first? I know there were options that referred to elementary, options that referred to secondary.
I'm gonna try to put them up here.
Okay. All right. See if we can get them up front. Don't remember your straw design was options 10, 8, and 4. Are up front now. So if we start with elementary, Kevin, how would you like to proceed? We need more story, or can we just go off the options and what our interests are?
I think we can go off the options, perhaps the straw design, and I think we're where we need to be. Honestly, this is the fourth session. We beat these topics up pretty well, and so you know, I think we're kind of where we need to be, especially with the straw design.
Okay. Any further comments or thoughts?
Yeah, initially, just the comment on the straw design, I think, what is it, 10, 8, and 4? Yeah.
10, 8, 4, yeah.
So 10, we support 10 the way it was written. So I think the difference is 4 makes the $300 a day to 400. I believe when we talked about this, the justification for 400 was that it's more than 300. Our justification for 300 is it's $50 an hour times 6 hours. So that's how we got to $300 a day. And 10, 8, 4, 10. And then 8, I don't think at this point, unless someone else on the team has a comment about 8, I don't think we necessarily have a comment about 8. So our concern is with 4, and I'm reluctant to put another straw design up at this point, but we would like to include 9, obviously.
So, well, don't be reluctant to put it on the straw design. So you would be 10, 8, 9?
10, 8, 9. Correct, yes.
Yeah. I'm just gonna add it. You're just gonna have there. Wait. Kevin.
So by including 9, that excludes some people from my bargaining unit from getting paid, correct?
Yes.
Does it also exclude them from doing the work, the additional work that other people are getting paid for? So just like special instructional who aren't asked to cover, are we excluding these people from being asked? Because if the intent is more work, more money, then if they're being excluded from the more money, they shouldn't have to do the more work.
I think, is that a question or is that just a statement?
it's an honest question. Are we excluding them, or are we expecting people, like, let's say I'm one of the people that's excluded, so I don't qualify for pay. Jill is included. What's to stop an administrator from saying, Kevin, you do it, knowing they don't have to pay me?
They're not being excluded from the work, if that's the question.
So we're asking them to do additional work without additional compensation like everybody else.
I did hear you say that you wanted to talk about non-instructional separately.
Okay, well, then, yeah. And I'm not sure if adding them here.
I'm
but
sorry?
The non-instructional for me, well, yeah, we wanted to do non-instructional separately, right? Okay, so I don't know, adding them here. So we're adding them here only because this is covering elementary?
We're not adding them here, we're excluding them.
Well, say, yeah, we're adding 9 to exclude them only because it's elementary, right?
Well, that's what we're talking about, elementary,
Okay.
sure, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Anna, did I see your hand up? No. Okay. Sure.
I'm really not trying to be nitpicky, I'm a little confused. So option 9 would exclude the math coach at Colonial Elementary from receiving extra pay for covering a class.
During planning time.
Okay. During planning time.
Well,
I think, if I'm understanding it right, we wanted to come up with kind of 3 separate, like, sets of rules. And I don't know if that's what we're trying to say is this would be classroom, instructional staff, elementary, and secondary and special centers, and then we would do similar type option, straw design maybe for non-classroom instructional, and then I know there was some discussion kind of through labor management about special instructional, which I think the article, or the language in Article 10 already has some of that distinction between special instructional and non-classroom instructional. I think this would be splitting it out even more. And so I don't know if that's kind of what the discussion is about, is we're not leaving one out, we're kind of checking one off the list and then plan to address the other 2. And that's, I guess, kind of a question.
Kevin?
And that's where I may have gotten confused and jumped a little bit. But back to the 300 versus 400, I mean, you're assuming a 6-hour time period. And so the day's not 6 hours, the day's 7.5. And so if I've got an elementary school class, I can't say, I'm getting paid for 6, you know, I mean, yeah, 25 minutes lunch if we want to cut that. Find a comb, find a tooth or whatever, but I'm gonna tell you, in Hendry County, they agreed to give everybody $2,500 this year, $2,500 next year as a bonus out of ESSER money, just cause. Outside of any raises or anything like that. Just cause thanks for dealing with all the nonsense, you know, but again, the day is 7.5, not 6.
But to get into the splitting hairs idea, the amount of time teachers have students in elementary school is not 7.5.
Jill?
With a lot of the changes that have happened since COVID, teachers are responsible for student supervision for longer amounts during the day. So I know last year, a high school teacher, if they had to cover one class, they would have supervised students from 6:35 to 1:35. With a 25-minute lunch break, that would be 7 hours. And I know at the middle and elementary, as students arrive to school, they're encouraged, and even at the high school probably, encouraged to go directly to class, because I think students are still arriving like in staggered waves. So teachers are supervising students for longer periods than they did in the past. So if we're gonna talk about paying for the amount of time, I would venture to say that the majority of teachers, if they are covering during the day, they're supervising students for close to 7 hours total at anywhere in K-12.
You're gonna, Joe covered it.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I think we arrived in an only speaking for elementary at the 6-hour day, only because, so like Kevin mentioned, a 25-minute lunch and depending upon your school, probably somewhere close to 45 to an hour on planning. So we were closer to probably 6 hours, and that may be lenient when we thought about actual time that you're supervising children at the elementary level. Can't speak for secondary, maybe it's closer to 7, but elementary-wise, probably about 6 hours was probably closer to the number that you're actually with children when you take out planning and lunch.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Some schools have extended day and they supervise students a little longer as well. I don't know if this goes into it, but I know I definitely I get a 15-minute planning period without students. That's it.
Ooh. All right.
And I think one of the things I've said, if we look at it at $50 hourly, then if there's extended, if there's all, that would actually allocate for that. So that way, if you have those situations, because right now, most of my teachers get in the low 30s an hour. So they will still be getting that money, but plus 50. And I know we're not talking about secondary, but since that came up, wanted to just kind of give you some of the thought processes of it in terms of looking at the time, the student time of contact. So if you go beyond that, if you do it by an hour, you're going to, and that's the problem with saying 300. Whereas if you go hourly, you kind of, at least when you do that, you're getting into that range. So if it's 6 hours of student time in elementary, then it averages out to an additional $50 an hour. Or taking that amount and splitting it up as you would do in elementary.
So did we have options that said $50 per hour?
Yeah, for secondary.
Okay. Sure.
And I think to Bob's point, I can't remember if it was the last bargaining session or the one before that, but moving from $300 to $400 a day also gives an incentive to those near, the higher end of the salary schedule, an incentive to, take on increased work, and it respects, the longevity to the school district. So if you're looking at $50 an hour, the $400 a day is roughly 30% more than, so it's $15 more. That's well over what I think a lot of the folks at the higher end of the TALC salary schedule make per hour.
Right.
So we actually discussed this in a team before you guys came in. And one of the things we wanted to make sure you guys understood is that for both proposals, the elementary 300 and the secondary $50 an hour, that is in addition to the hourly rate, not instead of. So if somebody is on the higher end of the scale, I remember the example last time was somewhere around $49 an hour, and the proposal agreed to is the $50 an hour, that person would get their $49 an hour plus the $50 for covering the class. They wouldn't just get $50, it would be in addition to. And so the same with the 300. That is so if as the 300 is proposed, let's say you split a class, you have 3 third grade teachers, one of them's out. You take that teacher that's out and you split those kids, the 2 teachers who take those extra kids would get $150 more on top of whatever pay they were getting based on their current pay rate for that time period. So I think that's a very important distinction, that it's not that we're paying people $50 an hour for that, it's that we're paying that on top.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Anybody
else? All right, what do we need to do to move forward on the elementary proposal? Kurt?
So I think I'm gonna call to test, I don't know how you have those listed, Donna, straw design, I have them as A and B.
It should be A and B, yes.
I would like to call to test straw design A, options 10, 8, and 4.
Donna, can we caucus?
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, 15 minutes.
Okay. Yes. You guys want to caucus?
Yes, please.
Okay. 15
Sure, we talked about various options and the options that are up there. And we have 2 new options and then a straw design. The option 12, I think we're up to 12, would be that D1A increase absence from $300 a day to $360 a day.
Okay.
And then option 13,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
and option 13 would be regarding current option 7, which we would like to have any issues regarding the enforcement of 7. In other words, if it was not equitable in some fashion, that those would be referred to TALC labor management. And it's easier to understand once I do the straw design, so.
So, did you get that one? Kevin, did you want to?
Can you repeat it, please?
Sure. So 13 is going to be part of our straw design, as will 7. So we want 13 to include language that any issues regarding 7, which is the desire to split evenly among a team or grade level, if there are issues regarding that, they would go to and be referred to TALC labor management.
Okay. All right, let's let Rob finish it.
Our straw design would be 7, 9, 10, 12, and 13.
Okay, that it for the report, Rob?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Kevin, now you have.
And so one last kind of clarification for posterity. And I may let Tina have the microphone because she can speak to this expertly. As an elementary special areas teacher, they have been excluded from classroom splits under the argument that they are not considered classroom teachers. So, and I may hand it down to Tina to do a little more explaining of exactly how often she's done this kind of activity and not been compensated.
Before you do that, can you give your practice report, please?
Oh, shoot, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Donna. So our caucus report centered around discussing the options. We have a lot of representation from a lot of schools across the district, and we heard stories about schools with no subs. Every single day, no reprieve. We heard stories where the principal secretary is basically, these are my words, not my team's, beg, borrowing, and stealing to get folks to cover classes because the situation is that dire. I don't think it's exaggeration to say that our members are surviving in these schools. We're not excelling, we're surviving. We're talking about teachers supervising students and providing quality instruction, to kids who have an educator who is absent. We also have to consider our members' physical health and mental health. And in these trying times, I mean, it's rather disconcerting that we're contending over $100, a day for an absence. So I am encouraged to, with the new option that's on the table. And I did want to close with a conversation about the special area teachers. We can pass that over to Tina now.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse until we get some movement on it. and I apologize if I sound rude, but over 4 years ago, I had over 20 classes extra I taught for the year. And I think it was 486 individual extra students I took on that year. And I did not get paid 1 penny. The reason I did not get paid 1 penny is because I was told I am not a classroom teacher. I get the classroom wallet, I get paid the stupid best and brightest, I get all of that as a classroom teacher, but I'm not paid extra. I have still 5, 6, now my 10th year in, I'm still not getting any extra pay for taking on extra students, taking on extra classes, covering, and that's just my personal story. I can tell you day after day that my teachers are covering class after class, and because we fall under specials, because we call ourselves encores, we don't fall under that classroom teacher, and it's a loophole. So I would like specifically to be listed or labeled under that teacher classroom as what you guys want as, instructional, special instructional positions, because otherwise we are going to continue with this loophole. And if I'm not going to get paid, I should have the right to turn down the position and being asked to cover these classes that I'm not going to get the extra pay for.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we've had both teams report out. We have a new straw design added to the mix. So that gives us 3 straw designs now. We have option 10, 8, and 4 was the first straw design. Option 10, 8, and 9, straw design B. Option 7, 9, 10, 12, and then the new 12 and 13, which, can you read that to them, please? Because they can't see that one. Those two.
Okay, 12D1A, increase absence from 300 a day to 360 a day. Option 13, taking option 7 and any issues with option 7 rather being referred to TALC later.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion on the options? Remember, our interests are employee morale, emergency crisis situation, each responsibility for work done, employee recruitment and retention, fairness, clarity, student achievement, compliance, manageability, health, safety, and welfare, professionalism, treating educators as a professional. Kevin.
So a couple of things before we do anything. Procedurally, I think we should test the first option put up, because there was a call to test an option, straw design. Secondarily, based on that, the success or failure of that option, that straw design, we probably need to caucus to talk about the new straw design that was proposed. And lastly, I need to, again, kind of put on record where all of this additional money is coming from. And is it ESSER money? And what are we going to do when it runs out? And also, I just have one last comment, and I hope I don't mess it up. Courtesy extended too frequently becomes an expectation of the person asking it. There are teachers in this county that do coverage every day, have been doing coverage every day. And honestly, it's like the busing. Our bus drivers are out there every day driving their routes, but there aren't enough of them. And so we tell our staff, first 2 weeks, don't really talk to me about late buses and having to stay that extra 20 minutes, you know we'll level out. Where in week 13, nothing's leveled out, and people are still expected. So the courtesy we extend for 2 weeks while the district sorts out transportation has now become the expectation. And that's when people start to feel like they're being used and abused and underappreciated. And so I think we really need to consider where the money's coming from, what's the plan in 3 years if it's ESSER money? Because again, where are we gonna find this money? We do a very good job of not spending non-reoccurring dollars on reoccurring expenses. And I can guarantee you in 3 years, the teacher shortage will not have disappeared. So how are we handling it moving forward? Because I say it all the time, there's nothing worse than not giving somebody something than giving them something and yanking it away and expecting the same performance. So these are all things we need to really consider and maybe hash out a little bit prior to like putting this down on record, because you know, it is what it is.
Initially, and I'll hand this over to Dr. Desmores in a second, but I will say that we're talking about this under the section of this bargaining session that is regarding ESSER. So obviously the funds are coming from ESSER. The reason they're coming from ESSER is because there is an increased level of coverage going on in schools because of COVID. And maybe it stays that way, I'm not sure, but then that's the new normal and we have to talk about it again. But I think the impact of COVID has led to staff shortages, staff absences, all of the things that are resulting in the need for us to talk about this, which is why the Biden administration and Congress has allocated this money. So the answer to that is yes. I'll let Amy add anything else that she may want to.
No, you pretty much said it. The answer is yes. It would be coming from ESSER funds that hopefully in, you know, the time period when those go away, that maybe we're not in the same situation we're in now. But the plan at this point, and it should be noted there, so thank you for saying that, and that in the option it's implied that this lasts for the length of the ESSER funding. And then once it's not until we, you know, potentially negotiate something else.
To that point, I'd like to put a 14 up there to say that exactly what Dr. Desmores just said, which is
contingent upon ESSER funding. That's all I have.
Okay. Sure.
So now I'm very confused. Because in the minutes that we approved, I believe, there was comments about this replacing Article 10.04 in the current collective bargaining agreement. And so if this language is replacing 10.04, I mean, that's status quo from here on out. So you're wanting to put a sunset clause on the expiration of ESSER and replace the language in 10.04 or something different?
Yeah, Kurt raises a good question. I haven't necessarily thought about that. I don't think I'm prepared to sit here right this second upon you asking that question to say that this totally replaces 10.04. Sunset language sounds exactly like what the option I just put up there, which I do want to add to our straw design. What is it, C? Yeah, straw design C. So if we could add 14 to that, I think that would make it clearer for all the parties.
Okay. Any more? Yeah.
So I have a question. So if the goal is to help with the stressors of not having enough teachers in the classroom, so if we eliminate the non-classroom staff, then isn't that not going to create more stress?
Yeah, I didn't think that we were eliminating them in any way from the equation. They just wouldn't be compensated under this provision. Nobody's being eliminated.
Well, but if they're not being compensated, then they're not going to volunteer to cover.
Well, they're not being compensated under this provision that we're currently bargaining.
The special areas are going to be a separate group that we're going to discuss. Actually, we're doing elementary, secondary, and special. Anything else? Kelly? I know you wanted to test the first one, but we, you actually got us off track.
I know. But again, I'm not sure. Tina, are you satisfied you're included?
I went with something saving, and then, but it includes.
Elementary area special teachers shall be included in the opportunity to access these funds, or something like that.
So that would be option
15.
15, don't ask me to repeat it.
Let's maybe get it down, so, all right, take time.
Aren't classroom instructional special area teachers are considered, right?
But they're not currently being paid because, at every school, because people will argue they're not classroom teachers, they're special teachers.
But but with this and what we have for number 9, they are part of the classroom instructional group, aren't they?
Yeah.
All right, so,
So that's,
right, so here's the little bit of law I know. Like, there's what's on the paper and there's what's said at the table. They both kind of carry equal weight. So when we need to grieve the fact that Tina's done it 15 days in a row and hasn't been paid, and her administrator says, well, and not that her administrator would say this, her administrator says, well, she's not a classroom teacher, and we come back with the argument that, remember at bargaining, you guys said they were? I don't want somebody to go, well, it's not written down like that.
well, it was part of our discussion, even in number 8 as an option, that students evenly split among classrooms and or specials team. So we have discussed that they are included in, at least in my understanding, in the classroom instructional group. So I was considering them already included.
All right, Kurt, are your hand up? No. Sam?
So it is my feeling that those of us at the table would consider them classroom teachers. But this actually was brought up at the table last year as well, and we're still having the problem. So we really, need to be nitpicky, we need to define them in there as well.
Will?
I think one of the things that, and I think this is maybe less a distinction of the language and more of the way that it was understood and being applied, was some of that instruction during missed planning. I know we had the same thing with resource teachers. Their job code falls under the classroom teacher job description. I don't know how it is that like that past practice came about, but I think that this would clear this up, because anyone who is under that classroom teacher job description would fall into that group. I think we probably need to do more to advertise to people what job description they're actually, working under. I think, 4,500 or so of the, 6,000 TALC bargaining unit people fall under the classroom teacher job description. And so again, I'm not really sure how all of the issues that have arisen have come up, but hopefully this will kind of set the record straight and be a reset button, that if that's your job description, if your job code kind of nests under that job description, then you're good to go. Nobody, can or should argue that.
Yeah. And then Bill?
I'm going to seem very spiteful here, but we are talking a matter of 4 words, to include special areas. It's 4 words. Just to complete that loophole. It's 4 words.
So why do you want that where do you want that as an option?
Well,
Separate option or?
No, just like a comma where it says classroom teachers, comma, to include special areas.
Number of the office.
I don't even know what we're on. 15, I think, was put up there, right? Okay. What does 15 say, please?
Special area teachers would be included in the classroom teacher language.
There we go.
All right, so that would need to be added to a stride design.
Okay. What was our original straw design, Bob?
A.
A. Please add it to A.
Okay. All right, Jill.
So my question is, as we include special area teachers, if a special area teacher, let's just say art, was to take all of PE for one day, which is very common, where one special area teacher will take all of another teacher, another special area teacher, that happens, right? Okay, that happens. Would they then be paid the amount of money allocated for that teacher? So for example, whatever amount we talk about, whether it's 300, 360, 400, whatever that amount is, it's being split up evenly. But if I take on all of PE as art, do I get that full amount of money for the day?
You have an answer, Rob?
How does that happen? Explain that to me. Don't they have their art students also? Oh, that's fine, you can laugh, but I don't know. Sorry.
So oftentimes, since there is no subs right now, say the music teacher's out. So the art teacher for the day then takes the music teachers and the music students and the art students all day long for every single grade level. Our PE coach, there was the art teacher and the music teacher were both quarantined, so the PE coach took all of the students for 10 days, except for we have a couple other like social skills or literacy, some other like push-in classrooms. So the PE coach for 10 days took his 3-4 PE classes plus the art class plus the music class, because he felt that was in the best interest of the students. We could have them outside running around. But that's what happens, is there's no subs for those teachers, so they're absorbing an additional class multiple times throughout the day.
Thank you for the clarification. Jill?
That absorption also happens in the 612. For example, ROTC teachers, they will absorb if a teacher's out and there's no coverage. PE teachers will absorb other students. I see that at my school, we have teachers in special areas who will absorb other students when another special area teacher is out. So that happens in 612, but I know the big issue is with elementary, they're taking, like Anna said, now every child that has to be in a special is with that one teacher, and usually that teacher only has maybe a para with them, so they could have over 100 students with one licensed professional and possibly one paraprofessional. So that's why I asked that question. If Tina or any special area teacher has to take that work on for however many days, are they getting whatever amount we agree to? Are they earning or being paid that entire amount for that day? Because they're not splitting art up among other teachers. One other person could take all of music, all of PE, whatever other specials they have. And that's a huge, when we think of safety, that's a huge safety concern when you have one PE teacher supervising all of the special students, possibly with the help of one or other adult. Same thing in an art class or in a music class. We saw that at the beginning of the year, where schools, because there are schools that have 0 subs, they will just combine classes in the media center and put one teacher in there to supervise 75 or 100 kids. And that's That's not safe, but that's something that our elementary specials teachers have been doing for years. And then they're told, well, you're not a classroom teacher, so you don't get paid for all of that extra work. But they're supplying a lot of the supplies and a lot of the materials to get the kids through that day so that the other teachers can get the planning they need.
Okay. All right, well.
I know I've heard some of those stories, like since we've had some of the COVID issues that we've had. Is that something, I don't recall hearing a lot of that through the labor management process before. And I have concerns, like Jill said, in hearing that, not only about student safety, but about what quality of instruction are students receiving. If you have one person supervising 100 students, and we're talking about language where it's instruction, during missed planning, classroom coverage. I don't know how you take 50 kids that are not regularly assigned to your class and teach them or the students that you have regularly assigned, and that probably is the point in some of that. But is this something that you all feel is, brought on because of COVID and because of where we're at, or was this something that was happening, in isolated occurrences, before we had some of the short staffing and other challenges that we're experiencing currently?
Go ahead, Dan.
It did happen prior to COVID. It's just happening more frequently due to COVID and not having personnel to cover the classes. And so they're pulling from everywhere and anywhere to get people to at least supervise students. I will tell you, we just had one of our PE coaches out. We have two of them, luckily. One coach took both classes, and then he has 5, 6, 7 classes out there at a time. And so they're trying to split it with 3 personnel. Only one of them is certified. It's happening currently, but it did happen prior to COVID.
Just more
Frequently due to COVID.
frequent now. Okay. Okay, Will or Amy?
Yeah, so I just wanted to take those couple of examples that were just given and make sure that I apply it, or at least as how I apply it to the options that are presented, and make sure that we're on the same page. So in terms of what you just said, in terms of a school has 2 PE teachers. One of them is out, and so the other PE teacher takes over, has his or her classes all day, plus the PE teacher that's out, their classes all day. Under scenario option 15, that PE teacher would receive, fill in the blank with the number, 300 in one option, 400 in the other option, $360 in another option, would receive that amount for the day based on the option that's there. And I just want to make sure we're all hearing the same thing, because that is what would happen. Or in the instance of, I think you said, if the art teacher has to take over, let's say the music teacher is out for the day. So the art teacher, in addition to his or her classes that she had all day, would also take on the music teacher's classes as well. So you might have 50 kids in with you at a time, and then in that scenario, that's the classroom coverage all day, or at least up to 2 hours, minimum the 2 hours, that it would be the fill in the blank number, 360, 400, 300, whichever option we are referring to. That's how I read that option to answer the question. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page.
Does that clarify it for everyone who had that question? I saw Tina nodding her head, yeah, Karen.
I just wanted to share, this is my 12th year with the district, and I've been at 3 elementary schools, and it has happened at all 3 elementary schools. Often, for example, there could be a sub in the place of art or music, but as last minute call outs happen, before COVID, that was one of the easiest fixes. Well, we can just combine specials with another special and move their sub over to this last minute call out. So I just wanted to bring awareness that it's been happening.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
I think Again, some of the situations that I was aware of before, from a labor management standpoint, were more along the lines of, adding an additional class and adding additional adult supervision. It doesn't sound like that's what's happening consistently, but one of the things I would want to highlight, just regardless of kind of which one of the options that we go with, having a standard amount gives us kind of a data point to be able to look back at how things are being done and maybe offer some input or some recommendations on how we can do them better so that people aren't being placed in some of those situations. It would be easy to see if someone's getting the full, $400 in one day, that, okay, that was a situation where there's the potential that someone, is completely overwhelmed and, going to be struggling. And we can see how frequently that's occurring, and then maybe look at some of the underlying factors or where we have the ability to kind of prevent that from being a situation. Not to say that we would be doing that with the goal of, stopping people from getting compensation for it, because again, it may happen, but to say, how do we make it reasonable for people and make sure that they're being compensated for it?
All right, thank you. Way back when, we had a question for.
Sorry, Donna. I need to just add one more thing to our straw design A. I want to add option 3.
Option what?
3.
3?
That removed the minimum of 2 hours. And since we're not talking about the secondary and special centers, the per semester doesn't really matter, but since we're only talking about elementary, I neglected to include option number 3 in our straw design. We have an A.
Okay. So Kevin has to check straw design A, which is option 10, 8, 4, and we've added 15 and 3 to that option. So take a look at your options, take a look at our interest. And remember, if thumbs are down, we're gonna ask. Give you a minute to make sure you know what they all say. It's very long.
Can you reread 15, please?
Read what? 15.
Yes. Special ability teachers would be included in the classroom teacher language.
And remember, we're just talking elementary here. All right, we ready to test? There's a little sidebar going on. Sure.
There's a lot here. I want to make sure everyone understands what we're talking about. I hear some folks asking it to be typed up, and would it be helpful just kind of run down exactly what straw design A is, or are we all on the same page?
No, we're just saying the other options past 11, not about 15.
The others.
Oh, because options 12, okay.
12, 13, 14, and 15 were just added as zero.
Okay. So, if I'm reading this right, and our intent is we're only talking about 1A on option 10. The 300 is moving to 400. We have this language about how to split evenly among the classroom or the specials team. I asked to scratch the 2 hours, but then in item 8, we've put in some language about how to address that. Number 15 specifically identifies the special areas teachers. And then I think that's it.
You said 3.
3 is scratching the 2 hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's sort of addressed in number 8. I wanted to make sure that my mind was right and that everybody was understanding what I was trying to talk about.
Okay. Yes, Sarah. We want to be sure everybody's clear on this, we have a lot of stuff up here.
Number 8 includes the non-classroom team. I'm not sure what that refers to, and, I thought we were talking about that later.
Okay, clarification on the non-classroom team? Bert?
So 8 was before we got a little messy. I think our intent is that the non-instructional folks should get paid more to do extra work. I don't want to settle on this and then us come to the conclusion that we didn't include the non-classroom instructional folks. So if we're gonna have a discussion about non-classroom instructional, then I think we're prepared to move on, but if the intent is to put a bow on the non-classroom instructional, that's not the intent of this option here.
Okay. We ready? All right, thumbs up.
Hold on, would there be an objection to a pre-vote caucus?
A pre-vote caucus, any objection?
None.
We've had a lot of other side roads
None.
off of this original. All right.
Yes.
Yes, pre-vote caucus.
Thank you.
You guys are the caucus.
And back. And back.
And back.
Paging Will Ruffin. Our caucus report was to discuss the straw design, and we discussed the straw design.
Okay. Short and sweet. Her?
I think the Clipper room is bugged because Mr. Dodig just stole my caucus report. We looked at the straw designs and discussed the straw designs.
Okay. So, when we left for caucus, we had, what seemed like a long time ago, request to test straw design A, which were options 10, 8, 4, 15, and 3. So, without any further ado, can we test that, please? All right. Okay, the all thumbs down. Do I have somebody who's going to be the spokesperson for all, or shall I just go down the line?
I could try to speak for, I think some people had their sideways, actually. A couple people over here. Yeah, okay. I'll speak as much as I can for those that have the thumbs down, but they can certainly chime in if they choose. So, I don't have them up there. I'm trying to remember what each item was. So I can tell you that 3, which was added late to the straw design, the objection there is that it would be entirely unmanageable if we didn't have a 2-hour limit there, or 2-hour minimum. So that's the objection there. We have a desire to exclude non-classroom instructional folks. I think that's obvious from our straw design, or the straw design I proposed. Shouldn't speak for everybody. What else were they? 4. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head exactly what the items were. 4 is obviously the amount of money. We feel like we made a fair counter offer, if you will, from 300 to 400, and we proposed 360. So that's where we stand on that item. 8, I think, includes non-classroom instructional. That's why there's the objection there. And 15, what is 15?
15, we're adding special area teachers, just adding the words that special area teachers would be included in the classroom for language.
Yeah, I don't think we have an objection to that.
Okay.
So the way to get us to thumbs this up would be to remove some of the items and replace them with essentially our straw design. I mean, that's essentially where we're at, and I don't think we're that far. I mean, a difference of $40. We didn't hear a counteroffer from the bargaining unit on that. We made the counteroffer ourselves, which is meeting them more than halfway on that item. Does anybody else want to speak?
Does anybody else that come down want to add to what Rob said? I have Carl and Bonnie.
Well, one of the things that was brought up is actually brought up earlier, it was dealing with the ESSER piece. I want that within the agreement, because having been remembering when we first even started paying teachers, which was fine, but you know, there was 20 years ago when it was a pilot year, and language, it just carried over because of the lack of language signifying that, so that became, which is fine. But remember that experience, I want to make sure that we put in the language regarding this is throughout ESSER, because I just don't see it being affordable without ESSER.
I didn't see that as an option.
It was number, yeah.
Number 14.
Yes, so for me, that was a definite that's a deal breaker for me, having been around, and I, you know, when, having been around years ago when we even went into paying for planning periods at all. So for me, that's because I really want that part in there. Rob covered some of the other things. I don't think there's anything else that he didn't cover that I have major concerns with, but I wanted to point that out.
All right, I had Bonnie who wanted to say what Carl said what you were going to say. Okay. And Kevin.
I'm not sure what happens next, but I have to respond about the 2-hour comment. So I get you for an hour and 59 minutes, I gotta give you a dime. I get you for an hour and 59 minutes every day, I'm not paying you a dime. I'm asking the question because it says less than 2 hours. So when we challenge it and say, well, you know, it was 45 minutes, somebody's gonna say it was less than 2 hours.
I see you 59 minutes, and I raise you. Hey, Shanna's got to run to the bathroom. Can you just watch her class for a few minutes while she's not here? Where's my $400? You asked me to cover a class, and there's no minimum time. There has to be a minimum time, or it becomes completely unmanageable.
But we have continually made the difference between friendly coverage and I don't want to call it unfriendly coverage, but we'll call it mandated coverage. I need to go to the bathroom. First off, we need to get somebody to say, can you cover my classroom while I go to the bathroom? Because quite honestly, almost nobody in my bargaining unit can go to the bathroom anytime they want, which is something almost everybody on that side of the table enjoys. So that's a really bad argument, because I got teachers who got to go to the bathroom at 7 and can't go again later.
Kevin, my point is that if there's no minimum, at what point does a $300, $360, or $400 payment kick in?
But we had
no minimum, based on your argument, if you're 1 minute less, you don't get it. I'm saying if it's 1 minute, you do, if there's no minimum.
But we had in there that if it was less than 2 hours, it was your hourly rate. There was no $400. So
and
again,
number 3 takes that out.
Okay.
All right, Anna, then Tina.
So I just wanted to say that one of the reasons that this hourly rate of less than 2 hours is important to me is when we're talking about special area teachers, we have other special area teachers beyond art, music, and PE that are typically assigned in focus. In my particular grade level, we have a literacy special that is done by our PBIS coach. When she's not there, they have to find someone to cover her special area times. That's not a 50-hour time frame, or a 2-hour time frame, it's 50 minutes. Our MTSS specialist delivers a science special to kindergarten and to first grade. And so I feel that the purpose of that is not for when I need to go to the bathroom, I need someone to cover, but it's allowing them I don't think that when they're covering a 50-minute special or two 50-minute specials, that they should be eligible for the whole little backpack cash, I call it. But therefore they are being compensated at their hourly rate. And so that was the intent when that was created, was to capture not when a car is broken down, not when we're doing friendly coverage, but when a teacher is truly covering an instructional block of time on our school sites that are less than 2 hours.
Tina, I have you next, and Bonnie.
I'm going to piggyback to what Anna said, because our teacher's planning is 40 minutes because that's the special's length of time. So if I have to have a 2-hour minimum, again, we are going to be shut out every time because we will not get that 2-hour minimum.
So my concern with option number 3 is by agreeing to option number 3, there is no minimum at all. So I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm hearing about these, what I'll call specials, but there has to be a minimum point at which something kicks in. It cannot be 0, which is we've removed the minimum and there is none with option 3. That's my concern. I don't want to, I hear what you guys are saying about, like I said, what I'll call specials, but removing the minimum language, just removing it, which is what's been proposed, means that this language kicks in with no minimum. And that's not manageable.
Okay, I had Tina, next, and then Amy.
I understand where you're coming from, and I totally get your minimum, I do. My thought was that's why we put in number 8 to kind of cover some of those items, so that there was a minimum time, but it can't be necessarily specific, because in my building it's 40 minutes, and Anna's building it's 50 minutes, and so forth. But I thought 8 was what was set up to kind of cover that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Amy, and then Kirk.
Just wanted to ask a clarifying question about the examples that you were giving. So in the one example where you were saying that there's a person that gives the science special and that person is out that day, but wouldn't that still have to constitute all-day coverage? Does the person give the science special all day long? And so you would be taking that person's class all day long, or that person only does like one period of the science special, or 2 periods, not necessarily all day? Is that what it is?
Anna,
Okay.
answer that without, so they can hear us on YouTube.
Yes, that is correct. They may only do 1 period for a grade level kindergarten for that time frame. Maybe they have 2, but it's not an all-day thing. It's not a half-day thing, and it's split up at different chunks throughout the day according to the schedule.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I understand that now.
Okay. Kirk.
I want to address the manageability, I guess, issue that we've been discussing, and to me, it's a non-issue. It's solved in the language that we've had from August. The last line at number 1 says, allows school-based administrators to ask classroom teachers or non-classroom instructional staff to volunteer to serve in place of a regularly assigned classroom teacher. This isn't, I've got to go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. This is an administrator assigning another instructional staff member to cover a class. If an administrator is assigning another staff member to cover a 5-minute bathroom break, I mean, I guess that's the administrator doing it. But I wouldn't anticipate that an administrator would make such a strange directive, I guess. So to me, the language takes care of that.
I told him I take that your way, Rob, if you want to.
I have a request for a caucus on our side.
Okay. We have a request for a caucus. TALC? Caucus?
We can go in the dark in the back room here, so you guys don't have to, gonna be a couple minutes, 5 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Is the camera still?
close to 6:30, so.
Okay, yes, so we discussed an additional option and would like to add that option and propose a straw design and propose a test.
Okay.
So it would be option 16
Correct.
would include any, help me out with the wording here, folks, any coverage less than 2 hours would be paid at the hourly rate. And I know that may be in some other option, but I want it separate so it's clarified. Okay?
Okay.
So our straw design is 7,
Yeah.
9, 10,
Go ahead.
12, 13, 14, 15, and 16.
Okay. So straw design D, 7, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
7, 9, and 10 are on the board,
Correct.
and then you're gonna have to help us with,
The rest of it.
12 through 16 if anybody has questions.
Could you just run down what they are?
Yeah. This up here.
I know 12 is the $360. 13 is any issues regarding 7 would be referred to top labor management, excuse me. And then I don't know 14, 15, and 16 off the top of my head.
14 was about the ESSER funding, contingent on ESSER funding.
Yep.
15 was special area teachers would be included in the classroom teacher language. 16, include any coverage less than 2 hours, would be paid at the hourly rate.
Right, thank you.
Kevin, clarification, question?
Absolutely, both.
Okay.
So as we address the sunset language, because I do think it's important we memorialize this is coming from ESSER money. So, you know, with the ESSER money, when it's gone in a couple of years, what happens? Do we revert back to the language prior to this was negotiated, or is there no language at all around coverage?
Well, I think we could do it a couple of ways. One thing we could do is leave, 10.4 in there, and put in this language that upon the sunset of ESSER, that we revert back to 10.4, or we could put language in there that suggests that we barred this issue upon the sunset of the ESSER funds, or a combination of both, or something different. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Kevin.
You.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so I think, honestly, you got it? I've been told to ask another question. You're good? Okay, well, I was waiting on, we're good? All right, do we need to meet? So we now need 5 minutes and you probably won't.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, Anna's gonna ask something.
Question about something?
And Jill may have had something as well.
So I just want to point out that another component of 8, and I understand that you guys don't like the instructional day split among non-classroom team. We'll address non-classroom teachers later. But we do have that section in there that says the elementary, like the full coverage would be 2 hours paid planning per day for coverage. So I just want to throw out there that there was a conversation in prior sessions about the scenarios of teachers who are doing the lesson planning, the grading, they're doing everything for that classroom except for delivering the instruction. My example was last year, from April until the end of the year, I did everything besides be that body in the room for one of my coworkers. And I know that there's several people sitting at this table still currently doing that. They're not the body in the room delivering that coverage, but they are doing the grading and all of that. So I don't know if that's captured somewhere else or if we could consider maybe something else, just a thought.
All right, Jill, go ahead, and then Carl. Carl, go ahead. You're done? All right, Carl.
I honestly agree with what you brought forward, because within my school I'm having that issue, but I think it's a separate entity. So I do think it's honestly worth discussing how to handle it. I don't see it as class coverage, instructional coverage.
I agree.
But it's something that during this time that I think it should be discussed, because it's happening, I think it's happening in many of our buildings. They paid an operative, but I'm a little leery of putting this as part of it. I don't really want to mix this with coverage. I think it's something, I think it's another entity of it, like when we talked about separating from, because honestly, I kind of want to get this done so that teachers can get compensated. I'm just going to be honest with you, but that piece there, so that's where I am with
I
it.
think Hannah's okay with that concept. Her?
Just a clarifying question. Is it the district's intent in this option to not discuss classroom coverage for non-instructional?
Is it our intent not to discuss it?
Or not because I think earlier, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, earlier you said that it was, that your option kind of was the intent to exclude non-instructional. So is it to exclude them completely or just in this particular discussion?
This particular discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 5.
7.
It's getting close to 7, so. I am sure I want.
No, it's okay, take your time. Hey, I've got the easy job, I just have to talk, you have to write it down.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we had more robust discussion around the straw design. And I think, I have it as straw design D.
Okay, thank you.
As part of our caucus report, we have one more option, and then I think we will create a straw design E.
What number are we at?
17. So option 17 is to modify the absence valued at $300 a day to $375 a day. And then straw design E will be options 7, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
Just one little question here. I would like to have some further discussion about the sunset and what happens. I see it as a couple options. Either we keep the current language in the contract, and when this sunsets, we revert to that, and maybe we could put some language that the parties will commence negotiations at that time. I'm a little uncomfortable with the current language just going away, and then when this is sunset, we have nothing to fall back on.
Okay. All right, so we have a new option, and we kind of touched on sunset language before, or do we want to wait again?
Well, I would suggest for that be discussed in labor management.
Rob's suggesting you discuss the sunset language in labor management. They say yes.
I don't want to hold up a possible resolution for that language.
All right, so, that's fine. Bird, Kevin, nodded their head, so they're okay with just talking sunset language in labor management, health labor management.
Carl wants to speak.
Yes, Carl.
Okay, I want to hear the rationale, and perhaps we didn't go into the rationale, but, of the 375.
Jill?
So before it was brought up that the idea was to pay $50 an hour for 6 hours. But in reality, the way things are at schools, first we work a 7.5 hour day. So really, and I understand when you're covering for elementary, you're taking on kids, those kids are being split, you're taking on full responsibility for them. And so when you think about it, when teachers get to school, in many cases, at certain grade levels, the students arrive shortly thereafter, and the students come and they eat breakfast in class, the teachers are supervising them. Depending on the grade level, the teachers are in the lunchroom with them, and the teachers have to stay with them until all the buses arrive and all the kids get dismissed. With bus driver shortages and COVID and all of these different things, teachers are spending more than 6 hours with the students. And so if the idea is to pay $50 an hour, we should really cover the entire workday. And that should be $375. And even coming down from 400 was hard because teachers are covering every single day. It's exhausting that we are not getting breaks in our schools. We have schools where there are 0 subs. No subs come every day, and every absence, every hole is filled by classroom instructional in that building. At my school, there are 0 subs. Every single hole has to be filled by a teacher every single day with no break, no reprieve. And it's getting to the point where teachers don't want to cover because they're only being compensated in some cases, they're only being compensated for the minutes of the instructional day. They're not being covered for the student supervision in the morning or afternoon that comes with covering a morning or an afternoon class.
Okay, I think we've said all that before, and heard it, so there's your rationale.
And what I'm going to say is this, the purpose of this is for instructional coverage. So I'm really struggling with going over 360. I mean, I understand all the other pieces, but when I hear about the whole day, we're talking about instructional coverage and whether, and perhaps my fault may be that I have already started thinking about the issue of equity and looking at different levels and knowing that in secondary, because in my mind, that number was not accidental for me. In terms of looking at the maximum amount of instructional hours, that's why I came up with the 360 in mind. Have something that when we get to different levels is something that's transferable. So that was where the 360 came from me. I gave in on the 300, but I didn't go in the middle. I went to 360, just trying to have something that could be a little more transparent, a little more computable for people. So regardless of the level, so we don't get into a problem later of levels. So, and I was at elementary, so I get it, and I saw it, and I think what's on the table is actually is much better over the next couple of years than what has been had. I just kind of, honestly, I just felt like that was thrown out there, and we can always create reasons, but that's where I'm on the 360.
All right, thank you.
And then thinking of equity towards secondary as well, later
on. Kevin?
So, though I appreciate that perspective, the bottom line is students need to be supervised from the moment they get there to the moment they leave. For some reason, the district has yet to solve the transportation issue, so students are at schools later. Most schools, kids don't do what they did before COVID, which was run to the cafeteria, and instead of a teacher getting in at 7 and not seeing kids till 7:30, because breakfast was in the cafeteria, teachers are seeing kids at 7:10. Those are the facts on the ground. And it's very important that we acknowledge that though the time may not be instructional, I'm almost positive it's not a free-for-all. And so kids don't come into Anna's room 5 minutes as the buses get there. And Anna just goes, well, I'm not instructing you, so don't worry about it, do whatever you want to do. All time is valuable in the school and in the classroom. And so if you want it for 6 hours, stop making them go to the classroom right off the bus, put them in the cafeteria. Fix the transportation system and get them out of school on time. Because another thing we haven't talked about, which I thought was on the table, is what if I've got 40 kids in my class because we're short a teacher, and I got a core class and I'm teaching more than I should because isn't there a classroom population amendment, a student amendment, class size amendment? So again, if we want to talk about instructional time, then maybe we should just watch them for the instructional time and supervise them in the CAF and get the buses there and get them out on time.
And so when we talk about creating equity, what was explained very clearly to us earlier was that teachers would get their hourly rate plus $50 at secondary for covering. So if you're brand new to the district with 0 years experience, your hourly rate's around $32. So if you get that plus $50, that's $82. We have 6 classes at a middle school, which is approximately 6 hours. Classes are about like 55 minutes. So my math may be slightly off, but that's about $492 a day when we have to cover all 6 classes because we have teachers who teach out of 6. But if we just have to cover 5, that's $410 a day, which is still more than what we're offering an elementary school teacher to cover, which is still more than the allowance for one elementary school teacher to be out.
All right, it is now 6:55, and we think we're going back in circles.
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk in any more circles. I just want to point out that we started at 300. There seemed to be a choice for 400 with no real rationale, admittedly. We then went to 360, which is even more than halfway, and we're at 375 now. So we also compromised on a couple of other issues regarding the coverage for less than 2 hours. We agreed to the hourly rate when we originally said a minimum of 2 hours. So, you know, we're well aware of those things where we've compromised today. We would hope that we would see a similar type of action from TALC.
All right, so right now, it looks like we're looking at D or E. And the other storage lines, I think, are pretty much kind of thrown by the wayside.
Well, I requested a test on, what is it, D?
D, and they call it password process.
Right. We never tested it.
No, we never did. But the progress report gave more than.
Well, no, they just put another option up there with it. I mean, we tested theirs earlier.
Yep. So I have requested test D, and that's probably gonna be the last thing we do tonight, because it's like 2 minutes before 7. So, Kevin?
Can we get 2 minutes in the hallway? Yes. Literal 2 minutes. Yes. Sir, you set timer for 2 minutes. For anybody who's got it right.
We had a quick discussion about the option, the straw design where we are. about the value of the absent teacher and, the value that we're placing on that. And the fact that this is a piece of the over $330 million of ESSER funds. And this is a very, very important topic to, a lot of the folks that we represent. So that's what we discussed.
Okay. And with that,
Can we test D, please?
yes, now we're going to test D. So, D, once again, is option 7, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I see thumbs down. All the way around over that one side, and thumbs to the side and thumbs up on the other side. It is now after 7 p.m. and everybody says they want to finish here at 7. So we're kind of at a stalemate, huh?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab $15 on the way home.
So, with that, I think we're gonna have to call it an evening and come back on December 6th. And hopefully we can do what people wanted to do. Thank you, Donna. Thanks,